Here?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm really pleased to have Hannah with us today. We first met at her CrossFit Level 2 seminar in Macau late last year, where a conversation after the nutrition lecture somehow lasted much longer than either of us expected. Now, if you've taken your Level 2, you'll remember that's where we discuss self-efficacy, the belief that we can successfully make a positive change, but also how we as coaches can help the people that we guide to make that positive change. So that term self-efficacy is something you might come across a little bit more in this next hour. Now, that conversation with Hannah stayed with me because she brings a perspective we don't often hear in CrossFit. She studied sport and exercise psychology before becoming a full-time CrossFit coach. So she understands that both the science and the reality also of what our life looks like coaching on the floor. So I want you to be aware that today's session is not about turning coaches into psychologists. There's more than enough psychologists out there. We don't need more. But it's about exploring practical ideas that can help you as a coach become more effective on the floor. So, Hannah, welcome. Why don't you
Thank
start
you.
by
Yeah.
telling us a little bit about your journey from studying sport and exercise psychology to coaching CrossFit?
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, for having me on. It's a really exciting opportunity. So I'm really excited to share with all you guys. So I'm Hannah. I started off as a psychology teacher. Before that, I studied sport and exercise psychology at university. So that's my main degree. And through that, got into teaching. So I spent a few years teaching A-level and GCSE level psychology in schools and sixth form colleges in the UK. I then moved to Dubai, so the UAE, and taught some psychology there as well. And it was actually during my time in Dubai that I sparked more of an interest for CrossFit. So I did start doing CrossFit in the UK before I moved there, but I got more into it in Dubai. The CrossFit scene in Dubai is very competitive, and there's a lot of people out there doing that. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and that's where I did my CrossFit level 1. And yeah, so from there, I kind of tried to merge the sort of teaching, coaching, and I felt like the two really lended themselves well to one another. So I slowly made a transition from teaching psychology into coaching CrossFit. And yeah, then I took a job in Bali coaching CrossFit for my first official CrossFit coaching position, which was amazing. And now I am here in Hong Kong at Asphodel, coaching full-time CrossFit, loving it. And yeah, it's really interesting to bring my two passions together. So my passion originally for psychology, sports psychology, and CrossFit, and kind of seeing how the two merge, because they definitely lend themselves to one another. So I'm really excited to kind of introduce everybody to kind of how they can knit so closely together, and how you can use psychology in the CrossFit coaching space to help our members and to hopefully increase longevity and, retention as well. So yeah, a little bit about me.
I love it. Thank you, Hannah. So, before we dive in, I'd like to introduce a simple idea. Every athlete who walks through our doors bring more than just their physical ability. They also bring their biology, their psychology, and of course, their environment. Now, as coaches, we have limited influence over someone's biology, but we have enormous impact over the environment that we create for them. And through that environment, we can shape confidence, motivation, resilience, and ultimately long-term participation, as you said, Hannah, the retention. So it made me think about something we're all familiar with in CrossFit, and that is the idea of mechanics, consistency, and intensity. So we usually think of it as a framework for physical development, how I take someone through a physical skill. But perhaps it also applies psychologically. Good mechanics would help people feel safe. Consistency would build confidence, and appropriate intensity expands the capability of that athlete. So, with that in mind, Hannah, psychologists usually don't look at biology, psychology, and environment as separate pieces. Why is that? That's our first question.
Okay, good question. So psychology as a kind of main definition, just to start us off, just, so people can actually understand what psychology is about. It's looking at a myriad of factors to help us understand why somebody behaves and acts the way that they do. So ultimately, we're looking at why our members are behaving the way they are. What are they bringing into the gym that is leading and influencing their behavior when they're here in the gym with us? So we don't look at things like the environment, biology, someone's psychology, someone's situational factors. We don't look at them separately. We look at them more from like an interactionist perspective. So how are all of these factors interacting with one another to ultimately produce the outcome or the behavior of that member? So when somebody walks into our gym, they are bringing with them things that we do not control. So their biology, any pre-existing mental health issues they might have, they might be battling with. They bring their age, what stage they're at in their fitness journey. Have they got a lot of experience before with fitness, or are they brand new to fitness completely? Are they a parent? Are they a long shift worker? What hours do they work? How demanding is their job? And, we as coaches, we only see these individuals for 1 hour of their day. And there's so much other stuff that goes on before that we don't see. But it's really important that we try as best we can to be aware and understand those factors, because ultimately that is what is determining how they might behave while they're under our care and in our gym. So we've got to look at all of these things together rather than separate, because there's not a one size fits all approach here. We need to be able to ask a few questions of each member as they come in, whether they're new or whether they're regulars, to kind of meet them where they're at. In CrossFit, we say that quite a lot, meeting you where you're at. Everything is infinitely modifiable, depending on how you're feeling, what stresses you're bringing into the gym. So I think it's incredibly important not to just see one or the other or something versus something, but rather to see them how they interact together, and not seeing it as such a one size fits all. Everybody's unique, everybody's bringing in their own stuff.
That makes perfect sense. And then later on, when we go through the case studies, you will give us an example of how to look at these three factors as a whole, for lack of a better description.
Yes.
Now, I have another question that popped up, Hannah, and that was, we often say that CrossFit changes people. From your perspective, what is actually changing? And what I'm referring to is we see people come in and they might not be so confident, and all of a sudden, a couple of months later, they walk taller and they speak with more confidence. From a psychologist perspective, what is actually happening there?
Good question. So CrossFit changing people, I think CrossFit can change people. I mean, sport in general can change people. We know that the effect that sport can have on people is hugely beneficial. That's kind of like a common knowledge. But CrossFit specifically, because it's such a new sport, a lot of people that come in to try CrossFit, it's the first time they've tried something like that. So it's completely novel to a lot of people. And I think that CrossFit itself as a methodology can change someone's biology. Actually, it can change people in a few different ways. It can change them psychologically and biologically. So I'll talk about how it can change in both those ways. So when you come into a CrossFit gym, you have no idea, you have no pre-existing information about what it is that you're going to face. So we have this thing in our brain physically called schemas, which are essentially frameworks or blueprints for information that we have stored about a certain concept, situation, person, object, anything. And if you are completely new coming into a new environment, there is no pre-existing information there. So if you imagine it to be like a filing cabinet, it's completely empty. The CrossFit labeled filing cabinet in our brain is completely empty of files. So it's our job to help fill that filing cabinet with information for that person. And what that does is it physically changes somebody's biological brain. So there's a process called neural plasticity or neuroplasticity, where the actual brain connections and pathways are physically changing and being shaped when you're facing new experiences. And we use that then as a framework to guide us for that situation as it comes up in the future. So if someone's coming into our gym, we're wanting to change their biology. We're wanting to shape their biology in a positive way, fill that filing cabinet with lots of positive experiences so that every time they come there, they're associating that with those pathways and they are wanting to come back. So if you look at how CrossFit could potentially change someone biologically, that would be actually what's happening there in their brain. So that's one way. Psychologically is obviously a different thing, but the thing that I would say for how CrossFit could change someone psychologically is through their experience. So this is more now the environment and what effect we're having on someone's learning. So it's quite common sense that the nicer something is and the nicer the experience is, the more likely you're going to want to repeat it and do it again. It's just, classical learning, classical conditioning, positive reinforcement. So how CrossFit can change someone in that sense is the more, as coaches and as members, we can provide those individuals with a positive experience, giving them a warm welcome, making sure that they feel included, making sure that they leave the gym on a really high positive note. And the repetition of that is going to sort of positively reinforce their psychological state and make them enjoy it, make them want to come back. So ultimately, if the question is trying to increase member retention, we're wanting to positively change through their experiences biologically and psychologically.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, Hannah, that sort of leads into the next question, which was CrossFit attracts highly driven people. Do you think, from your perspective, do you think CrossFit develops those characteristics, or are those personalities just naturally drawn to what we do?
I think this is a really interesting question because I think you can kind of look at it as like a chicken or the egg, what came first, because yes, I do think that CrossFit as a sport can naturally draw certain individuals and certain personality types to it. Most people assume that people that do CrossFit are highly driven, highly competitive, highly motivated, results driven, all those kinds of things, like proper elite athletes. But I think there's so many other aspects of CrossFit, like the community, the fact that everything's infinitely modifiable, anybody can do it, anybody can access it. I think there's a multitude of different personalities that could be drawn to CrossFit because it's not just about the actual sport, it's about what comes with it, especially the community and that kind of thing. So I think that certain personality types can be drawn to it, but I also think that you can become a slightly different personality by the fact that you repeatedly expose yourself to that environment. So, for example, you might join CrossFit because that's your personality. I'm a CrossFit athlete because that's just in my nature. Or you could repeatedly come to CrossFit and be influenced by those around you that have that mindset and then slowly become the CrossFit mentality because of that. So again, it's really difficult to say which factors are influencing each other. Are you there because you should be there, or are you there because you've become that by being there? So, there's so many different personalities. You've got people that need to achieve, people that focus on mastery, that want to be better at the skills, that want to be the best. They always want to be top of the leaderboard. And I think that's what a lot of people assume that CrossFit is about. But, you also have so many members I've seen, and I'm sure everyone that coaches here has witnessed members that don't have that personality style at all. They're not competitive, but they want to be better and they want to focus on their own journey. They want to make sure they're moving correctly. They might be a little bit nervous, a little bit scared about doing some challenging movements. But it's about knowing the different personality types within your classes and knowing how to adapt your coaching cues, styles, language used in order to be tailored for those individuals to ultimately lead to the behavior that we're desiring, which is longevity consistency, coming back, moving well. So like you said, the mechanics, moving correctly, not just how heavy you're lifting, but how well you're lifting, and keeping them in CrossFit for the long term, which is ultimately what we want. So yeah, to go back to your question, I think it can attract certain types of people, but it can also build certain types of people from what we expose them
Gotcha.
to.
Gotcha. I want to switch a little bit the view from the athlete to the coach. As coaches, a behavior that I see is that we love celebrating outcomes because this is what people love, right? We celebrate that first pull up, a personal best in a lift, or even a podium finish at a competition. How does psychology encourage us to focus more on the process than merely the outcome? And how can we strike a balance there?
Um, I think, if ultimately what we're trying to achieve is longevity, I think that it's incredibly important that we put a lot of emphasis to our members on playing the long game and not being scared to fail, encouraging failures and viewing them as opportunities to learn, opportunities to receive more information about what it is that may have not gone so well in that attempt and how they can improve next time. And I think that the emphasis on next time, next time, next time is really important, because again, we want people to keep coming back. We want them to keep trying. We don't want them to see a failure as becoming frustrated and then giving up. We want them to use that as information moving forward. And I think you can sometimes have members in your class that can be a little bit task orientated instead of process orientated. People that tend to potentially only see the workout in front of them on the day and want to do well in that workout and not really see what the intended stimulus of that whole block of programming and whole year of programming might be aiming them towards or gearing them towards. So I think that just asking members to trust in the programming and trust in the coaching and, you know, meeting the stimulus in the correct way, explaining what we mean by RPE, so rate of perceived exertion, how hard they should be working on a given day for a given workout, and giving them examples of what the benefits are of them doing that, and using real life examples as well. So referring them to members that have been doing CrossFit for years and slowly been progressing because they've been trusting the process and they've been trusting the programming, as opposed to just turning up, seeing the task at hand and being like, I'm going to win this workout and then tomorrow's another day. It's the difference between training and just working out.
Yeah.
So the importance of being focused on the process for longevity, for enjoyment, for sustained motivation, sustained enjoyment, and minimal injuries as well, all things like that, which is going to slowly increase people's self-esteem, their motivation, their self-worth. And yeah, like they're not always going to hit a PR every day. They're not always trying to redline every day. There's intensity days and there's slower days, but they all have their place. And yeah, we need to emphasize that the process more than task, for sure.
You reminded me of something. I feel as coaches, sometimes those are the things that we celebrate with them. We draw attention to the fact that it's a PR or a first pull up, but perhaps what we should consider with our approach is also per class to call out the people who are moving excellently. The person who's been working for months on
Yeah,
stringing three double unders together, consistently doing their practice and their drills.
yeah.
And sort of opening up that scenario for people so that they see there is value in the process
Mm.
instead of just
Yeah,
celebrating an
yeah, and I
outcome.
think I think that there's so much more room for enjoyment when you do it
Yes.
that way, because if you enjoy the process of actually training, the improving, getting better at skills, chipping away, working on things, you're doing it for the right reasons, and those are the people that do it for years. Because if you're only focusing on how heavy you're going to lift, or if you win the workout, there's going to be days where you're not going to win the workout. There's things that you're good at, things that you're not good at. But if you pay more attention to what you're actually doing and how good things feel and how well you move and if your technique is correct and enjoying what you're doing, then those are the people that make sneaky, quiet progress underneath the surface. And you shouldn't disregard thousands of hours of doing that slow and steady compared to like every 3 or 4 times a week going all out and actually not really focusing on anything real.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely praising those members that are just working quietly in the background, improving upon their skills, and those are the ones that are the dangerous ones, really, because that they show the most progress over the long period of time.
Hannah, this leads us to the scenarios, right? Which this is the perfect intro to it. And we discussed 4 of these coaching scenarios. We saved the nervous beginner, how to handle the nervous beginner better, the person who comes in and always scales due to fear, classic underloading of the bar, for example, the person who always redlines, who leaves everything on the floor and has the injuries to prove it as well, and sort of sees it as a badge of honor. And then the person who early on in their journey stopped showing up after one bad class, they just don't show up. So, how about we start with the nervous beginner? I think most of us can relate to that one.
Yeah, I think for the nervous beginner, in terms of what they might be experiencing, they're very fearful of the unknown. They don't know what to expect. They have zero self-efficacy. So when we look at self-efficacy, it's obviously the confidence they have in their own ability to perform. And if CrossFit is something that they've never done before, they have absolutely no idea how well they're going to perform. They don't know what the movements are. They might be worried about looking silly, being embarrassed. They might be very intimidated by regular long-term gym members who have got all the movements down and they're very impressive. And so I think there's a lot of common sense for us coaches for this scenario. And I'm sure everybody already does this. You try to make a beginner feel welcome. You try to, maybe pair them up with one of your good members who's very friendly, very kind and caring and supportive and encouraging, which are kind of the common tactics and tools that we use. But I think it's really important as well to give that member some confidence coming in before they've even started, because they might be feeling like they don't actually belong there and they're looking for a reason from us for why they do belong there before they've even started, because they might feel like I might even run away in the warm-up. So
Can you give us an example?
an example of that would be, what I like to do is, if I see someone new, I like to give them a positive comment on something that's already pre-existing in them that's going to make them think that they are capable, or that they belong in the CrossFit space. So for example, it can be something really small, just like during the warm-up, you say, right, everyone get into a deep squat, and you say, oh, hey, you've got great mobility. Like, this is going to serve you really well today. Or, you've got a great squat. You can already hit squat depth. That is amazing. And, you're going to be awesome today because we've got a lot of squatting, and look, you can already do it. So it's just something that's going to allow them to be like, whew, breathe a sigh of relief of, okay, there's already something here that I'm good at. Like, I'm going to be fine because the coach just told me that something that I already have about me is good, and I'm capable of doing at least something that's going to be today. And you can be a little bit more confident because they have no idea, they don't know what's coming. And so if you tell them something, actually, I can tell you're already going to be good at this because you look fit, you look sharp, you look great. Let's go.
Do we ever have a conversation with them about failure and how failure in our world is normal and how it's only feedback? It's not a verdict. It's how do you get up and go and try again?
Yeah, I think, again, like going back to this whole about the process rather than the outcome, making sure beginners are aware that the culture in our gym is that we're normalizing failures and we're seeing it as learning and information, and that it's all part of the process. And making them aware that every single person in the room with them that day has failed lifts, has been a beginner at some stage. And nobody starts off being an expert, and we all have to go through hours of practice in order to get to where we are. And it's just that this particular person is at the start of their journey and someone might be halfway through, but not to compare yourself to someone else's journey. just to focus on yourself and not be worried about failing, because yeah, it is part of the process, and we should normalize that, definitely.
Yeah. Let's move to the second one. And I'm not going to call names, obviously, but over the years of coaching people, generally I see this on strength days. I would have people, we're doing a 5x5 back squat, and they are done by 15 minutes in. And that is our strength block for the day, meaning that they are underloading that bar and they're trying to sneak the work away so that coach does not see. And I only started to making a positive impact by actually making sure that I see every rep during a lift, which is easier for me because my gym was smaller. But what drives this person that they sort of, I don't want to call it hiding, Hannah, but there's something different. Can you explain that to us and then probably give us an idea on how to handle this better? Because I definitely have made my fair share of mistakes here with this typical scenario.
Yeah, I mean, this scenario is tricky because there, as I said before, there can be so many different factors occurring here as to why somebody might always seek out their comfort zone and be afraid to progress. I think it depends what the movement might be. I think sometimes we have people that are a little bit worried to go heavier from fear of injury, hurting themselves, especially on things like a deadlift or a heavy squat where they're maybe not so confident in bailing a bar or something like that. So I think there's many different reasons, but I think again, some people are just happy to maintain their level of fitness. It depends where they are in their life. You might get the middle-aged parent who's like, you know what, I'm just coming here to do my 5x5 back squat. I'm not looking to make any serious PRs or anything like that. But, we should always be encouraging progress. So I think we need to really be taking this as a case by case scenario of understanding that member. What is it that's stopping them progressing? Are they scared for injury? Are they just needing a good spotter? Some people just don't go heavier because they don't want to ask someone to spot them, or they don't feel confident in the person spotting them and things like that.
Yeah.
So offering to spot somebody, I think if the movement that they're scaling is a high skill movement, let's say like a gymnastic style movement, if somebody is always going to the ring rows instead of trying a pull up or even a banded pull up, I think trying to make the modification similar to what they're comfortable with, not too much of a big jump. So it gives them confidence. Yeah, but still different, still progressing, but not too far out their comfort zone. Because I think for many people, scaling can be a psychological thing of fear. So, ring rows are very comfortable because they're low to the floor, there's low risk involved, it's low skill. Whereas asking someone to get on a pull-up bar, which is high off the ground, can actually be quite scary. It's not about whether they're strong enough to do the progression. It's about psychologically they're a bit worried about going up so high and not have done anything like that before. So I think for these scenarios is trying to look for appropriate levels of modification that is harder than what they're already doing, but still comfortable enough that they're confident enough to give it a go. And if you are trying to encourage them to do a little bit something a little bit harder, then maybe it's a good opportunity to take them aside at the end of a class so there's not others around, and help them with it so they have more confidence to do it as a go-to next class.
Makes sense. What I love here is that it's a reminder that we need to have a conversation with people, and that conversation can start when they walk through the door or happens, between sets, as long as we have a conversation and we do not assume this is what's happening in their case, and hence this is the answer. I'm going to push you in that direction
Exactly.
Without asserting, it's the same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. How about this one? Athlete who always red lines. If I'm not first, I failed.
I like this one because I see it a lot.
I've seen Nishant giving a grin.
Sees this a lot. This is another interesting one because we're very quick to kind of laugh and be like, oh yes, we all know someone that goes out too hot, someone that doesn't know how to pace themselves. But this might not be due to someone trying to win or having a bit of an ego, or just, it could be, again, down to a few different things. It might be that this person is new still and they don't know pacing. Especially when you're new, before a start of the workout, you have this massive surge of adrenaline. You feel fresh, you feel great, and just by instinct, you go too fast and you redline. So it could be that. It could be that you don't know yourself well enough yet, and so you're just redlining by accident. So there's that side of things where the strategies would be slightly different. Getting someone to perhaps attempt something as more of an EMOM style, get used to their pacing, figure out where they're at, look at their heart rate. So asking them maybe to measure their heart rate at certain stages to keep an eye on it, so they don't go out too hot, that kind of thing. But I think for a lot of members that are redlining, it could be the fact that they are missing the stimulus of the workout. They're focusing on winning. They're paying attention to others around them. That's quite a common thing. You start a workout, they're looking around, they're looking at what their mate's doing and how fast they're going, and then they try to match that pace, and then they soon find out 10 minutes in that 20-minute AMRAP, they're only halfway and they've already fully hit the wall and crashed. So I think, it also depends. It's a unique case by case. I think if it's the latter and you've got someone that's, focusing on other people's performance rather than their own, it's just about reminding them to, stay in your lane. Let's try a different stimulus. For you specifically, I want you to attempt this workout in this way. Today, I want you to see the first 10 minutes of the 20-minute AMRAP as being almost too slow. You should feel bored almost doing it, and then the real part of the workout starts, and completely, disregard what anyone else is doing. I think it's easier said than done, because there are people that will still say, okay, yeah, I'll try to slow down a little bit at the beginning, but then they get wrapped up in it and they just, there's like quite a common joke, isn't it? You agree to pace the beginning, but then you always end up going out too fast anyway. So I think this one is having words with people about their pacing, or just getting them to know themselves better. And over time, I think that comes with confidence and learning and that kind of thing. But I think trying to encourage hitting the stimulus correctly, praising the way that they've attacked a workout, as opposed to praising them for having a laugh with them if they've absolutely killed themselves rolling around the floor. That's not always what we want. There's a place for that, but then sometimes not. So making sure as a coach, you are praising the stimulus and whether it was met or not, rather than praising the overall vibe that you see happening in front of you.
Yeah. You mentioned having a conversation, and sometimes this is one of the hardest conversations to have, because certain personality types will see you as trying to hold them back, or that you trying to win the workout of the day, something like that, ultra competitive. So it takes a while to win the confidence of this person, to make them understand that you are there to serve them in a way that will make them last longer, so they have a better quality of life, and doing this thing for years, instead of, okay, this is the flavor for this year. This year is all about CrossFit. Next year, I go do something else.
Yeah, I think that for these types of people, the best thing you can do is to show them a real life example. Give them an example of someone who has, as I said before, who has followed the process, who is following the stimulus correctly, who is making really good progress, and sort of say, hey, look, this person is a similar age, similar demographic to you, and they're consistently trusting the programming, they're consistently hitting the correct stimulus, and look how far they've come. It's like, it's not about how you perform on the day, it's about how you perform across the entire year of programming. We want people to be in it for the long run, and consistently redlining and hitting that high level of intensity is not how you're going to achieve that. And you're just asking them to trust you, and they've got to where they've got without trusting you at that point. But if they're not seeing progress and they're not happy with where they're currently at, then what have they got to lose by just trusting and seeing where it takes them?
Yeah, really appreciate that, Hannah. Let's look at the final one here. This is the person who stopped showing up after one bad class? Usually beginners.
Yeah, I think there is a very kind of important window of opportunity when someone is new to make them feel like they want to come back. And again, not every single day, not every single workout on the whiteboard is going to be super exciting. Not every day is going to be super rewarding for some people. You know, some workouts are not going to be in your wheelhouse. Some workouts you're going to turn up and be like, oh, I hate all these movements. I'm really bad at them. I'm going to fail and I'm going to be rubbish. I'm going to finish last. And those things can be discouraging and frustrating. So I think it's our job to make every class a positive experience, regardless of what's written on the whiteboard. So picking up on small things, small wins and small successes within that class that are potentially hidden that those members aren't seeing. And even if they were to have a bad experience, we turn that experience into a positive one by picking up on certain things. So for example, they may have missed a load of lifts. They may have not hit their percentages that day, and they may be leaving feeling like they didn't have any success at all within that class. But we can highlight things that did go well. So we can say, hey, look, I know that you failed that lift a couple of times, but you know, your position on that was a lot better than last week. Your elbows were a lot higher on this than last week. Your recovery in between sets was faster than last week. So you're getting fitter. You're showing up even just being there is progress. So I think making sure that we focus on what is good from that class and give an emphasis on next time I want you to focus on this, next time I want you to focus on this, because if you insinuate that there is a next time, they feel almost like a responsibility, like you're expecting them to come back. You know, oh, hey, when we come back next week, let's work on this a little bit because this was really good, but we can work on this a little bit. So they know that you know that you're expecting them to see them in class again and that you've seen them and that there's room for improvement and that some things went well, but some things they can and work on. Yeah, so I think trying to get them to see that there's learning and it's normal and there were some wins and they should come back.
Hannah, this is very helpful. I'm going to open the floor for questions. And we're going to we have about 10 minutes for questions, and then I'll do the closing remarks. At the end, I'll also have Hannah's details for you if you want to reach out to her and just bounce some ideas off her. So who would like to go first? A question for Hannah or just in general?
Yeah, I would like to go.
Please go ahead. Who is this?
Yeah, yeah, this is Arman. Hi.
Hey,
Sorry about the
Arman.
camera. Doing a few
No
household
worries.
chores that one would not want to see.
No, or maybe we do. Arman calling
Hi,
in from
Hannah.
Pune in India, Hannah.
Okay, hello.
Yes. Hi, Hannah. Thank you for all the insights. One question that popped into the mind is that out of all the scenarios that Yuria presented and you shared insights, how much of that does require a chat outside class, and how much of that is a casual conversation while the class is in progress?
Okay, really good question. Um, so I think there is always opportunities to have brief chats with members as they come in or after the class during the warm up. Obviously, it's tricky to always, when the class is super busy, to kind of get all the ins and outs of everybody. But I think that comes from knowing your members really well. Chances are there's not going to be days where you have loads of new members in the same class. So if there is just one, maybe two new members, you can dedicate a little bit more time to getting to know them. I think it's always good if someone's coming in new that you ask them to come maybe 10 to 15 minutes early before the class, just so you can ask them these key questions and ask them things like what's their background, you know, what are they expecting from the class? Are they open to new challenges? Do they have any kind of preferences? How confident they might feel? Are they worried? Do they have any concerns? Obviously, the common questions, any injuries, that kind of thing. But I think you can find out a lot of information from someone in just a few short questions. I think, yeah, if they're a brand new member, it's worth asking them to come a little bit early to a class. But if they're your regulars, you equally check in with them during the warm-up. Hey, everyone, how's everyone feeling? Has anyone got any concerns? You can ask them to come and chat with you before, you start whatever part of the workout, if they want to have a chat with you. And then just kind of using your initiative to read the room. You can tell if regular members, there might be something off, and you can have a chat with them. So I think, yeah, just kind of, you don't have to be some professional psychologist and analyzing everybody, but just picking up on small things and kind of reading the room, I guess. But yeah, you can find out a lot shortly before a class or during warm-ups, things like that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your question, Arman. Who else do we have with a question? I see we have a really nice list of people here. Some of you who I know come from a psychology background as well. Any questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Please, who is this?
Shruti, I'm from Singapore.
Hey, CrossFit
Yeah.
Kampong, welcome.
Yes. I have a question. Because I do have some athletes in the gym that are quite competitive. They're always going for competitions, and I feel after a while, sometimes they kind of experience like a little burnout after competitions, and they feel less motivated after a while. How do you deal with this kind of athletes?
That's a really good question. Thank you. So for this one, after a period of really intense training for a build up to a competition, there's a lot of physical demand. You ramp up training volume, ramp up intensity, and there's a lot of a heavy physical, psychological demand as well, and emotional demand. And I think the best advice would be, after an intense period like this, to encourage the athlete to take a little bit of a break from training and only return when they really feel like they want to. Because athletes, and especially people like us that do CrossFit, it's an addictive sport, and we all love doing it. And when you are experienced burnout, you can feel like you no longer enjoy it. The things that you like, you no longer enjoy it, you no longer want to do it. So I think having a little break, having a deload, focusing on things that you do genuinely enjoy, just for the fact that you enjoy it, saying, right, today I'm going to just do upper body because I love getting an upper body pump, and I know that it's not me going like, oh, I'm dreading training today. So things that you enjoy, and not fully returning back to training until you actually miss it and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm ready, I want to come back and I'm hungry. Remind them of their why, and they will want to come back. People can't stay away from CrossFit, they always return back to it. So I think, yeah, like encouraging a little rest to get them decompress and then come back when they're really missing it.
Yeah, that's great. So that means like in the class context, you kind of let them scale a little, tailor according to what they feel like. Yeah.
I think if they're not wanting to take a full rest and they're still wanting to take part in classes, just sort of giving them a bit more freedom to focus on the things that they actually enjoy. You don't want them doing things that they're going to dread, and doing things that they're like, oh, I really don't want to do deadlifts today. So giving them some options, and yeah, just getting them to focus on things that they really love.
Thank you.
Shruti,
You're welcome.
Shruti, can I throw a question back at you?
Yeah.
So folks, I want to give you a little bit of context here. Shruti is a competitive Olympic weightlifter. And
Wow.
you guys have a tremendous mental game. Can you give us some insight? How do you coach people when they go and they step up to the platform and they're getting ready for that lift? Say the worst happened, they miss the opening lift. What kind of strategies do you guys teach them to keep their eye on the goal? in front of them? I hope that question was clear.
I think we always tell them that treat the competition lift just like what you do in class, because they are always we always have like mock meets for them to kind of prep them in classes as well. So as long as they treat each lift to the best of their abilities and just move on and look forward to the next one. And we tell them, like, for example, after they finish the snatches, don't bother about the snatches, move on to the clean and jerks first, and then focus on that. And then we can do like the AAR after the entire thing. So try not to be too worried about the past and think about what they can do for the next one. And typically, when it comes to on the competition platform, I like to tell my athletes not to think about like more than 1 or 2 cues, because honestly, it's kind of ingrained in them already. They just need to keep the eye on the target and do their very best. I think they have it in them. Yeah, so try not to cloud their minds with too much things.
Makes sense. So the cue almost become like their mantra for what they need to accomplish right now in the moment.
Yeah, just kind of think about how the lift should look like and the way like you manifest what it should look like, and then just go for it, honestly.
I definitely want to manifest my snatch as well. Doesn't always work out, but anywho, that's me. Shutzi, thank you so much. Appreciate your input here as well. Anyone else with a question for Hannah, team? We still have about 4 minutes or so before we wrap it up.
I have a question.
Please, Nishant.
Hi, Hannah. Hi, Yuria. How are you guys?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Hi, Nishan.
Thank you for a wonderful session. I really loved it. Yuria, it was wonderful seeing you in the CrossFit Games this time.
Oh,
Judging.
thank you.
Yeah. So, my question is for Hannah. So, we have had a lot of members who have joined us and then, like as beginners, and they have improved tremendously. And I have noticed this pattern that a lot of them, after improving, they stop listening to the coaches and they stop listening to, like, they stop just following the rules and everything. They feel that they know more CrossFit than the coaches. And how would you go about it? And finally, they end up leaving CrossFit. So how would you go about it in like explaining them that you have to listen to the coach or
That's a really interesting question. I think it's, when you establish the culture of the gym and, how we do things in the gym, the respecting of the coaches and listening. And, I think especially if they're coming in at the beginning as a beginner, that they need to be able to trust your guidance, and know that what you have their best interests at heart and you want to continue to see them improve. I think it's important to kind of nip it in the bud early, to kind of say, hey, you're making some great progress, which is awesome, but we want you to continue to make progress. We want you to continue to enjoy yourself while you're here. So yeah, really just kind of establishing that kind of mindset that when you're in the CrossFit space, you do leave your ego at the door. You are coming in, you're respecting the people that are trying to help you, that are trying to help see you progress. I think it can be tricky, certain individuals, if we talk about personality types as well, it can be sometimes tricky to get through to those individuals if they're a little bit stubborn. But I think the gym culture that we create amongst all of our regular members who have been coming for years is really the vibe that we're trying to give off to new people coming in. And I think if new people come in and they sense that culture and they sense that vibe, and they kind of, people, when they come into situations that they don't know how to act, they don't have any expectations, they do look to others for guidance. Like, for example, if you're coming in and you're seeing disrespect, or you're seeing messy gym space, or you're seeing chalk everywhere and people not cleaning their equipment, you are going to start that kind of mentality of like, oh, actually I can just kind of do what I want, and that kind of thing. So I think having a general word with everybody in the gym and saying, hey guys, this is what vibe we're trying to create, this is what culture we're trying to create, and yeah, just being nice about it, just you can take people to one side, have a chat with them and say, hey, look, we really want you to stay with us here. We don't want you to leave. We want you to be part of our community. This is how we do things here. And we would love it if you could, trust us a little bit and continue to enjoy yourself while you're here. But ultimately, people that disrespect that, if it's because of just their personality, then that's not necessarily the type of person that you want in your space anyway. So, if they do leave, then it's like, okay, it's not a great loss, but we should always try to help them, steer them in the correct direction when they are there before it gets to that point. So, yeah, I just think that creating a really positive atmosphere and positive culture, positive community, so that people come in and they think, oh, this is how they do it here, and everything is, respectful and good vibes.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that question, Nishant. Nishant coming into us from CrossFit Kali in Mumbai. Sam Wong also said that, similar scenario on his side. And I think it highlights the fact that we need to have the willingness to have difficult conversations with people, meaning that you choose the right moment. You make sure that it's not in front of everyone else, especially if your culture is a little bit, shame culture. So don't do it in front of everyone else. And just have a really heartfelt conversation, starting off with, hey, we appreciate you being here. However, this behavior is disruptive, and this is why. So keep it factual. Try to keep the emotions out of it. Easier said than done. I have another question coming in from Sandesh, and this is from Hyderabad CrossFit Commune. Sandesh, please go for it.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Yulia.
Bye.
Yeah, I just want to follow up from where we left right now. So we are a new CrossFit space, and we are setting a culture wherein we focus on MCI, and people do understand the importance of it. And sometimes we have experienced members from abroad, or let's say from another state, coming in, and they say that we are doing a certain movement like this for ages, so I know what to do, right? And it sets a bad example in a group class wherein other members have been listening to the coaches and they are sticking to MCI. So how do we deal? How do we go about it? Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. I think, again, like Yuria was saying, that it's about seeing if that kind of thing starts to disrupt the culture that you already have in your gym space, and pulling that individual to one side and saying, hey, look, I appreciate you've been doing CrossFit for a long time, but this is how we like to do things here. And ultimately they are a guest in your space, and to not let somebody that's just going to be there for a very short period of time come in and negatively impact the culture that you're trying to create in your gym. And I think that, that's something worth speaking to about with that individual. And, if they want to do their own thing in an open gym space, that's fine. If they want to join classes and do it that way, that's fine. But, there should be like a level of respect that when you're in you're a guest in a different gym, a different space, that you should do things the way that gym does things, unless you want to do open gym on your own somewhere quietly. But I think, yeah, it's a similar theme, just, pulling them aside and saying, hey, look, we really love having you here, especially if there's some, elite athlete that's been doing it for years. It's great to have those people in your gym, but only if they are giving off the right attitude and they're not having a negative impact on your community, because your community, those are the long-term members that are there, they're always there, not just visiting. So you need to protect that culture. You need to protect your regular members.
And what if that particular person wants to be a regular member in the future? Like if they are moving, they're here for a while and then they want to be a member soon. So how do I go with it?
Yeah, I think in the same sense that if they're planning to move to join that gym, you just have that conversation with them, the same sort of conversation. Hey, I appreciate this is how you may have done things in your previous gym. This is how we do it here. Are you able to adapt? Are you able to make sure that you carry positivity into our gym? not, you know, have any negative influence on the members. And if the answer is no, and they say, hey, look, no, I'm resistant to change, and they've got this kind of really fixed mindset and poor attitude, then potentially it's worth saying, I don't think this is the gym space for you. You know, you maybe find a different gym that has that mindset. But I think someone that's not willing to adapt to their environment, especially if you're asking them to adapt in a positive way and to have community first and cultures first, then they're obviously not somebody that we necessarily may want in your space. So that's just a really difficult decision that you'll have to make. And if it starts to impact your other members, then I'm sure they'll be thankful of you to have that conversation and potentially take action afterwards.
If I may add,
Yeah.
Okay,
Sandesh,
you can go first.
Sandesh, if I may add, if we have a conversation and they say, okay, yes, they will try to follow our culture and the way that we do things at the gym, I would explicitly give them a trial for 1 month so that they understand that their behavior has consequences. And after that month, if it doesn't work, then very amicably you say, I'm sorry, this is just not working out. But they have to understand that this goes both ways. It's not just a one-way street. That's my opinion.
In fact, we do
Thank you.
that, Yuria.
If
If a new member comes in, we don't let them pay
Who's this
us.
now, guys?
Sarah,
Oh, sorry,
Sarah.
Sarah. Hey, Sarah,
Yeah,
go.
I'm logging in a different. So that's what we do because we very fiercely protect our community. We sort of give them, don't let them pay. We tell them just come and do for 1 week. It's a good time for us to assist. I would rather waste that 1 week of giving a free class than getting someone who doesn't fit into my community and then, you know, having that very, very difficult conversation of letting them go.
I find this an interesting perspective because Sarah's gym has been running for more than a decade as well. And the fact that she is very, very specific about protecting the culture that they have created so painstakingly over the years. I mean, that is evident, and I think that deserves respect as well. Is it the only approach? No, it's not, but it does show what we value. So, Sandesh, for you guys who are a younger affiliate, now is the time, and it's a sticky time. Now is the time where you guys are sort of figuring out how you want to do this.
Yuria,
What
if
do you
I can
think?
just add a
Please.
little bit. Yeah, so I completely understand, Sandesh, where you're coming from. It's a new gym, and we are right now looking at, just getting in the revenue and paying the rents, etc., etc. But I would really suggest stick to the culture from the beginning, because if you don't build a culture from now, later on it becomes very difficult to build a culture. So you're at the right time to build your culture, and don't think about the revenue, it will come in.
Yeah, that's good advice.
All righty, guys. Sandesh, give me a yes or a no so I can proceed.
Yes, thank you, Yuria.
Thank you for your blessing. All right, guys, I want to finish this up. Remember, this is not your final opportunity to speak with Hannah. I will leave her contact details here for you as well if you wanted to share something with her or just thank her for her time to be with us today. I would like to go back to share my screen and just quickly tie all of this together. Stand by. Let me just do this. All right. So I'd like to finish by returning to where we started: mechanics, consistency, intensity. Consider going forward that these principles don't just describe the physical development, but they also support the psychological development of our clients. Good mechanics create safety, consistency builds confidence, and the appropriate intensity expands the capability of the people in front of us. So ultimately, coaching isn't simply about improving performance, it's also about developing people over the long run. As you coach this week, when you stand on that floor with that heavy responsibility on your shoulders, we would encourage you to reflect on a few simple questions. After a class, when you do your self-reflection, think of it per athlete. Did this athlete leave feeling more capable than when they arrived? Did today's challenge match both their physical and psychological readiness? Did I build confidence today, or did I only correct movement? If I find that I'm stuck in that rut of only correcting movement, start small and start with small bits of encouragement for people, making them believe that they can do something or just acknowledging their effort. Did I create an environment where mistakes felt safe enough to learn from? So important. What small success did this athlete experience today that makes them more likely to return? Our hope today isn't that coaches leave here thinking like psychologists. It's that you leave a little bit more intentional about the environment that you create, because every class has the power to shape someone's experience, how they face challenges, how they face success, failure, and growth as a human being. So if today's conversation helps coaches to create that better experience for people in front of them, then we've exactly achieved what we wanted to. Here's Hannah's details, team. Take a screenshot. If you want to reach out to her, I know she would love to hear from you. All right. Let's see if I can take a photo of us. Stand by. Hannah, I think I need to unpin you. Stand by. I can't find your pin button. Any suggestions, my IT people? Don't you laugh at me. I see you laughing. Madhu?
Yuria, do you see a top right
Oh,
three
Sabrina,
dots
Sabrina to my rescue. No, I
on
don't.
Hannah's?
Let me go to participants and then I see if I can fix it from there. Remove pin. I found it. Sabrina, what will I do without you? This is the story of my life, okay? We have so many of you here that I need to take 2 photos. Oh, I love it. Okay, first screen, taking a photo. Yes, second screen, stand by. Still smiling. Oh, that's a lovely smile there. Thank you. All right, team. Thank you so much. I'm running a little bit over time. I just quickly want to give you a heads up on what we're doing next month. For next month's webinar, we are going to talk more business. We're going to talk shop. I have the country manager of the Philippines talking to us about marketing, etc. And then he also has a segment on AI and how we can use AI for our businesses. Later on the CrossFit South Asia channel on Instagram, we will give you guys more information on that. Please help me out. Put your hands together for Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. We loved having you here.
Thank you so much. It was great fun.
Wow, that's a lot of love. Have a good week, team. See you all soon.
Thank you so
for
much,
joining.
everyone.
Good to see your
Thank you,
faces.
Yuria.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Hannah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Yuria. Thank you, Hannah.
Bye.
Thanks, Julia.
Bye-bye.
I see you,
Thank you,
Yvonne.
guys. Bye.
See you when I
Bye.
see
See you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. See you all soon.
See you when I see you again.
I see you when I see you. You and the worm, okay? I see you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hannah, just hold on a second. Let's quickly
Yeah.
touch base.
No
How are you
worries.
feeling?
Great. Yeah, that was amazing. I had a great time. So much fun.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. There was a lot of preparation going into this one.
Yeah. I was very nervous about it, but it was great. I had a great time. Yeah, really good.
Good stuff. Thank you. I'll message you afterwards.
Okay, perfect. See you
Be good.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.